is 9:30 here at KCIM, and it's Tuesday morning already. These holiday weekends really mess with my head.
They do, especially, when we have to all of a sudden remember that you have Rewind coming up, in the morning. So.
Yeah, it's not until you guys usually show up and I go, oh, yeah, it's Tuesday. So, all right, so here we roll. Week 1, high school football in the books, and dang, knock on wood, whatever. It's like it went pretty well as far as all of our operations go. It's always an interesting one, week 1.
Yes.
To get this whole orchestrated situation going with 3 different broadcasts, scoreboard show. You got all these different interviews going on. It's a lot.
Yeah, we thank Mason Nealand coming in, his first time ever being the host of the scoreboard show, and did a terrific job. And thanks to Jeff Honnold and Todd Danner for coming in and getting the interviews in, and I'm sure helping him feel a little more comfortable being his first time ever on the show. And those two guys are veterans, if you want to call them that. Todd's been doing it a couple years now.
Old.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we'll say that about Honnold for sure.
Well, we need to bring in somebody with some technical expertise.
Yes, yes. And it was kind of funny because, we talked with Mason and showed him, and Mason's a quiet young man and doesn't say anything. We got any questions? Nope. Everything's good. These young people, just you show them stuff and it just sinks right in because it's so easy for them.
I'm not that way.
No. You must not be young anymore.
As opposed to our old calcified brains that we just don't absorb this stuff going on. So.
No, but it's cool that the scoreboard show went well and very well on Friday night, I thought. And we made the addition of having 3 people here now instead of 2. So 2 are always in the studio. And then also want to thank Mason. He came in early, and I want to thank New Way Auto Group. We have a new scoreboard on the website that updates game scores from all of our area districts as the night goes on. So as the games are being played, as we get updates and stuff, and Mason sat in here and collected all those scores and kept the website updated, and sounded like that went pretty flawless as well.
Yeah.
So week 1 in the books. And what was the big headline for both you guys? Casey, we'll start with you. What are your takeaway from week 1 of high school football?
I think that you look at the offense for a lot of our area schools was really good. Our Weaver pitching a shutout with Blaine Smith getting hurt. The way I understand it, he's kind of week to week to see how his shoulder feels. But I think the resilience and the versatility of kids coming in too. Audubon moves Aaron Olson to running back. He was an all-district quarterback as well as an all-state safety last year. Well, now he's at running back, and I think that's kind of the big takeaway I would take away from the first week.
Yeah, for me, you mentioned the Arweva win that we thought that they could be good, and I think they showed that. I think Audubon going down and knocking off a strong CAM team on the road. Kind of on the flip side of that, little surprised with Kemper. Not that they lost, but Heelan came in and kind of was able to run the football all over them. But offenses looked really good with the defenses. The defenses in both of the games I was involved in, both ESAC and ICAM Manning. I think if you'd have talked to both of their coaches after the game, which I did, the defenses need some work. I think Coach Moore with Coon Rapids Baird probably feels like the defense needs some work after falling to Waco on Saturday. So offense is really good. Defense is maybe a little behind to start the season.
A little bit of a turnaround for that. Yes. Normally the defenses are way ahead at this point.
Yeah. But I think what we learned is that we're going to have some good football teams, in the area. I think everybody's got a chance to be good this season, or at least salty anyway, and I think that's going to make it for a fun football season.
Well, let's start with at home, Kemper. They were hosting Bishop Hill, and that's always a tough ball game. In case you were there on hand for that one, just fell behind early and couldn't catch up.
Yeah, I mean, Bishop Hill's got probably one of the best running backs I've ever watched play. Casey Thomas did a really good job. I mean, 22 carries, I think officially 248 yards is what he went off for. Had all 5 of Bishop Hill's touchdowns.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you take him out of the ball game, Kemper wins that game easily.
How many pass attempts in that ball game? Do you remember?
Kemper threw it quite a bit. They threw, I think Brock had about 32 attempts, but Bishop Hill probably threw it 6 times.
Yeah, right. When you can run the football like that, why put it in the air at that point?
Yeah, Carroll High was kind of the same way against Greene County. I think threw it a total of 7 times, if I remember correctly. but they got the ground game going with Taden Peterson and Reese Sigmund and Carter Essick, and jumped out early. And then it's always interesting. We kind of had the same thing on Saturday. For Carroll Friday night, they came out, kind of punched Greene County in the face right away and went up, and then Greene County punched back by tying at 14-14. It was tied 21-21 in the third. And I know Coach Rowe told me before the game he thought that they would have an advantage in their depth, and I think it worked out that way, because I think they wore Greene County down in the fourth quarter, able to outscore them 13-0 in that fourth quarter to pick up a win. But yeah, Taden Peterson ran for 190 yards on just 16 carries that night and scored one touchdown. But we saw him in the scrimmage.
Yeah.
Tough kid, fast kid, physical kid. There's not a lot of weaknesses to Taden Peterson's game.
No, and I think the depth that you mentioned, the depth that Carroll has when you can throw Carter, who's a mobile quarterback, you got Reese Sigmund in the backfield, as well as Taden you throwing at him. You got to pick and choose, and sometimes you could pick and choose wrong.
Yeah, you got three guys that can really run the football well.
Yeah, and I think Carroll High kind of went into that game knowing they wanted to roll in that game, but it was a fight through three quarters. I mean, tied at 21 going into the fourth quarter. You got to score a couple touchdowns late to make it look a little more convincing.
Right.
But there's a lot to work on coming out of that game.
And Ty Mulbauer with a big interception, and stuff like that in the ball game that he returned for a touchdown. But I think Greene County is going to be good this year. They're traditionally a very strong program and ranked almost every year. And I know they graduated some from last year, but I think watching and seeing kind of what happened and talking with Coach Rowe, I think Greene County is going to be pretty salty this year.
So a good week one win for the Tigers on the road. Where else do we want to go? Let's go to the regional game of the week, the ICAM Manning East Sac game.
Yeah, ICAM Manning, kudos to them. They go out and intercept two of the first three passes that East Sac County throws and build themselves a lead and look like they might be off and rolling. But kudos to East Sac County and stuff. They bounce back and are right in the game. They're down 2 scores in the fourth quarter and got a chance, but ICAM Manning sealed it with another touchdown, and then ESAC goes right down and scores right before the end of the game. So I think, as I said earlier, both coaches walked out of there, I think, happy offensively. Sam Julin making his first ever start at quarterback, had never played the position before, throws an interception on 2 of his first 3 passes, and then ends up having a nice game, and ended up running for 77 yards for 93 yards and a couple of touchdowns, ended up throwing as well for over 100 yards. So I think their offense looks good. The defense is young, some new guys out there. And then for ICAM Manning, Coach McCarville, not real happy. I don't think they tackled well, and I think there's some other things defensively that they're going to work on. But, Davis Rasmussen was incredible that night, 12 carries, 164 yards, a couple of touchdowns. You mix him in with Ben Langold. So but good win for ICAM Manning, to get off onto a good start. But I think for people that thought ESAC may struggle this year, their offense looks much better than it did a year ago.
So that's solid, once again, win by ICAM Manning there against East Sac County. Let's talk a little South Central Calhoun. Talk about their win on Friday night.
Young team. I think KC, impressive the way they came out against another young team and kind of took control of that game. Andrew Anderson, first start, hadn't played football since his freshman year, now out as a senior, starts at quarterback, and they went out and were able to establish that ground game, which is what they want to do.
Yeah, and I think you look at it, I mentioned earlier that they're moving kids around. Andrew playing quarterback, moves Caden Dorman to a fullback running back spot and had a really good game on the ground.
Yep.
You bring back Cole Higgins in the backfield, that works a lot for you. So I felt like going into the year, Coach Case knew that he'd have a pretty good team that could run the football, kind of what their bread and butter is.
Yeah, Dorman, you mentioned 17 carries, 93 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. And Anderson out of the quarterback position, 7 carries, 77 yards. So when your quarterback's averaging 11 yards per carry,
good athlete,
for a couple of touchdowns. Also had a key interception for them in the game as well. Yeah, so that's, I think, one of the other cool things that we take away. We had a lot of big plays defensively, even though the defense has struggled. We did have a lot of plays, the big plays defensively this year. John, we mentioned Arweva earlier. KC mentioned it. Blaine Smith, their all-district quarterback, goes down in that game. Jonathan Rieselman steps in, and hard to believe it doesn't sound like they really missed a beat on the offensive side, even with their backup in.
Did they just keep it on the ground, or what do they do?
No, they threw it. I mean, Jonathan had a good game through the air, also,
18 to 21.
But also, I think the big thing was he probably showed a lot more speed than I think people credits him for, because he had only 4 carries for like 86 yards.
Yeah, he's a quick young man. We certainly know that. He's generally a wide receiver for them, so he can run. But and then for the defense to go out and shut down, a Spartan program that's traditionally really strong, and to do that on the road, we felt Arweva could be really good.
Tyson Von Glenn had a really good game defensively.
Yes, and
so does the rest of the season look like this for Arweva? Because it's just they've taken their lumps in the past. They've been on the opposite sides of those scores. Now they're tending more to the other side. Of things. They're on the upswing.
The guys that took the beatings as freshmen and sophomores are now juniors, and I think they're ready to flip that script and kind of.
Going to be interesting to see how they play against Remsen and Woodbine.
Yeah,
2 teams that I think are going to be pretty good this year, so they can keep in those games or potentially come out on top. You can really see how good Arweva could be.
Yeah, it looks like kind of that district, Remsen, Woodbine, maybe at the top, Woodbine or Arweva there with them, and then Boyer Valley probably. So I think you got 4 for sure really strong teams in that district, and we'll see how the rest plays out. New Alfonda struggled last year, gave up 86
in week 1
to West Bend Mallard, and an 86-56 loss. So you can never count out New Alfonda, but I'd say right now the other 4 teams look like the top 4 teams in that district.
Well, Arweva's going to play Glidden Ralston next week, and the Wildcats took a loss in week 1.
Yeah, and it was interesting. Coach Prescott kind of mentioned, that didn't think they played that poorly. I think people don't realize how good this Woodbine team is. They got beat over the top a few times, but, that's a really good team. And I think for a lot of new guys in new positions, I think he was pretty pleased. I mean, nobody's ever happy when you get beat 58-0, but I think he was pretty pleased for a game 1 and some of the things that he saw.
Yeah, from what I saw, it was just a big second half. I think they gave up 20 points in the second half, and I think 20 points maybe in the second quarter. So, a couple of big quarters, and you kind of that score starts to run up a little bit. But I think Colby Wallace ran the football good. 16 carries, 93 yards, if I'm just remembering off the top of my head. They're probably going to have to try to find somebody else to run the football with, but I think Alex Daniel had a good season for him last year. It's just kind of getting into that groove and get kids back, out on the field. But you mentioned Glidden up front only brings back 1 starter, so kind of had to work some new kids in up front, and I think the 58-0 loss kind of shows that there might still be some work to do.
Yeah, and they'll get it. A young team, a lot of new starters up front. You graduated some outstanding guys up front from last year. So, got to develop another guy in the ground game, because you can't probably just rely totally on Colby Wallace. So
now Coon Rapids Bayard took a loss in week 1 as well.
Yeah, jumped out right away. Came out, and you walked by as Nick and I were doing the broadcast. Caden Oswald almost takes the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. They score right away on the possession, and Casey walks by as he was going back down to the field to shoot video highlight stuff, and said, exactly the start they needed, and it was. That was their first game of the year. Waco, who was ranked 6th, had a game under their belt, and they start out really sharp, get up 12-0, and then as good teams do, Waco came back, and once Waco got going, they found some soft spots in an inexperienced secondary, and it took advantage of it. The Rich kid, 6 catches. The first 5 went for touchdowns. So they found a spot, and they just kept attacking it. And what impressed me about Waco was first half they threw it all over the place, and I mentioned something in the broadcast. You got 328 and 294 on the offensive line in an 8-man game, and you're throwing the ball all over the place. They come out in the second half, and they run it because they've got the lead, and they ran it well. So that's a nice balanced team.
And you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like a lot of those touchdowns came on like third and 20, 3rd and 15, or like 4th and 15, and it's like you're one stop from getting off the field, but a big play happens.
Yeah. There was at least, I know one for sure was a 3rd and 24.
I think there are 3 straight drives to end the half. It was like a third and
it was a third down that they scored on. But there was one that was 3rd and 24. And they just went right over the top and able to score the touchdown. But, for Coon, Tyler Moore's going to be good. You got a couple of freshmen and sophomores starting up front with him there. I think they're going to be solid. And Caden Oswald, Ethan Bauer, and Wyatt Oswald running the football. And Gavin Heiderscheit showed them that they've got a good tight end. I think their offense is going to be really good this year, and I think people are going to have to outscore them. I mean, and I know that that's always what happens. You got to outscore somebody to win. But I think they're going to put a lot of points on the board as is what I'm saying with that.
Tell you, that second half, I'm looking at the scores. 21-14 in the third quarter, Waco, but 14 all in the second quarter. Man, that was a haymaker in the second half.
It was, and if that second quarter they wore out a little bit with the heat.
Yeah, they got shut out 18-0 in that second quarter.
Yeah, just no depth. They don't have a lot of guys out this year. And Waco, let's just say this. Nick said it a couple of times during the game. Waco had as many guys on the sideline while their starters were out on the field as what Coon Rapids Bayard had on their roster. And stuff. So
that makes a big difference.
It makes a big difference. They were able to sub in, and you talked to Coach Moore said it in the interview that I did with him yesterday that we get back into the game, and I know my guys need a break, so I put in some younger guys on the kick return team. And we give up a kick return for a touchdown to kind of blow the game back open again. Those are the things when you don't have a lot of guys on the roster that are going to happen sometimes.
I mean, those are learning things. I mean, they're going to get better throughout the year. So you expect that stuff to kind of happen week one, but it sucks when you have no depth. And I think Coon will be fine because I don't know how many teams they're going to play that's going to have a 40-kid roster. Maybe besides Audubon, that's going to have a 40-kid roster and can platoon the way that Waco did.
And speaking of Audubon, they took a little bit in the first quarter. They were down 12-8 at the end of that first quarter, but boy, good consistent second and third quarter. Yeah,
matchup of two ranked teams, and for Audubon to go down there and be able to pull away. Carson Wessel getting his first start, really at quarterback. He had saw some time there last year. Their running backs are always tough to stop in the ground game. 29 carries, 198 yards, and a touchdown for him on the ground, and also threw for 146 yards on just 10 passes. So that tells you that the strength of this Audubon team.
And I think their tight ends impressed too. Brody Weber getting his first start at tight end, but then we saw Austin Christensen a little bit at tight end last year, but looks like he could be more of a vertical threat. It only had one catch, but it went for 44 yards and a touchdown this year. And he's a great athlete. Because he also led him in tackles. I think 11 in the game,
which is almost a small number.
Almost a small number. Yeah, I mean, almost had 100 last year.
Yeah,
but a very good district linebacker coming back for him, and I think Audubon could really surprise. I know they're ranked, but I think Audubon could be one of the better teams in A-Man this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's do some power rankings here. You guys individually, if I'm going to say, give me the top three of our local teams. I mean, just our local teams. Give me the top three in power rankings.
I think Audubon's got to be one.
Audubon's got to be one. I'm going to put probably Carroll 2 and Arweva 3 for me. Is probably how I would go.
I would probably go Arweva 2. And then I'm going to throw South Central Calhoun in there at 3, just because, I don't think you expected them to be able to come out and do what they did against Pocahontas area with having such a young team.
Yeah, the thing I'll say with that is that, I've known Coach Case for 21 years now. When Coach Case says in the offseason, we had a really good offseason and the guys hit the weight room and they're working really hard, that's generally his way of saying, I've got a special ball club.
And
He never comes right out and says it. The only thing that is different is when he says, well, we may really struggle this year. Then he's got an exceptionally good ball club.
So he says we're good, they're good. If he says we're not that great, they're going to be really good.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's translating Brian Case 101.
Case 101.
Yeah,
I'll tell the quick story. They won that state championship at Southern Cal back there in the early 2000s, and I saw him at the Shrine game up in Ames when they used to play it there, sitting in the crowd. So I went up and talked to him during the offseason, and I said, Brian, you got to be pretty excited about what you got coming back. You really didn't graduate anybody. He's like, well, our first 3 games are really tough. Our district's loaded. We'll be lucky to win 1 game out of the first 3. I just hope we got a 500 team this year. Well, of course, they win another state championship.
Yeah.
So I always kid him about, always a little downplaying how good they could be. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, we're going to take a break here real quick. We'll come back. We'll talk a little volleyball, a little cross country going on as the fall sports season gets underway. It's KCIM Sports Rewind.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
It is KCIM Sports Rewind with Sports Director Jeff Blankman, Assistant Sports Director Casey Miners, and myself, John Ryan. Sack of the game brought to you by Market on 30. Where are we going this week?
Well, we're going with Jason Avalos from the Carroll Tigers against Greene County on Friday night. Had two of them late in the game, including one on a fourth down that sealed the win. So congratulations again, Jason Avalos again from the Carroll Tigers.
All right. Do we have a sack of the game winner? Or?
No. So Market on 30 takes care of all of that.
Okay.
Yes. So at least I didn't receive any information on one this week.
Yeah.
First week, where the one glitch that we've had,
All right.
I got to go back and look to see how that actually is supposed to work out. So
all right. So we'll get that clarification to go on next week. But interesting week one in high school and college football as well. Florida State 0-2 already in their season, and what an amazing catch from USC. I don't know the name of the receiver. Did you see the one-handed grab against LSU?
I did not.
Oh, yeah, he was
insane.
Double coverage, if I remember correctly. Miller Moss threw it up and almost OBJ style grabbed it one-handed and came down with it, rolled over his back. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see any of that one. So
yeah, well, the Iowa State on the very first play of the Iowa State game, that kid was it Noel grabbed the ball behind the defender.
Oh, really?
And brought it back in. He was double covered as well. I thought there is no chance that game gets completed, but he made a phenomenal catch, and then 2 plays in, bang, touchdown. So Iowa State this week, man.
Yeah, who would have thought that Iowa's offense would have looked better than Iowa State's?
Put up 34 points in the second half.
Yeah.
What clicked for them?
I don't know what clicked for them, but it's encouraging. I don't expect them to put up 40 this week. I told somebody, I said if they put up 21 and win, and their offense just shows like it can move the football, and it's not like a struggling 21, then I'm fine.
Yeah, I will say that, we were down for the Coon game, so we stopped at a place and grabbed a bite to eat, and it was Casey and I and Will who was running our video, and pretty much the whole bar was Iowa fans, and we were there for the first half, and
pretty quiet.
There was some yelling and frustration because it was a lot of, this is the same as last year and the same as previous years and stuff, but it would have been interesting to hear the difference in the second half when their offense
Caleb
got
Johnson,
going.
when he played in the second half, I think really helped.
Right.
When you can have an explosive running back like that.
Now tell everybody, what did I say the score was going to be on the way down?
Jeff said it was going to be 44-0. It almost got there, but
could have kicked a field goal late, and if they wouldn't have missed the one extra point or whatever, it would have been 44-0.
Yeah, so interesting games going on week one, and week two should be a lot of fun too. Got to talk a little. Well, let's do cross country first before we jump into some volleyball.
Yeah, Kemper had a nice showing Saturday down at the Glenwood meet. That's a really strong meet. Dayton Wiederin finished in 4th place for him. He's going to have an outstanding year. Their boys are deep and talented, and I think they're going to have a good year. Casey Wiederin looks like she'll lead that girls team for them as well. Nice young runner from Carroll High. So, I look for good things from them. They'll have a nice challenge. That's a really talented field up at Spirit Lake coming up on Thursday. I think 10 ranked teams are going to be there on Thursday, so that should be a lot of fun for them. And then, ESAC and South Central ran last Thursday up at and Arweva did too. And ran that last Thursday up at Southeast Valley. ESAC boys had a really strong showing. Reg Potts from South Central finished second.
I think ESAC had 3 boys finish in the top 6.
Top 10. Yep.
Yeah.
So led by Landon Sporer, who was 6th. So I think those teams are going to be really good. ESAC girls still battling some injuries. South Central Calhoun still kind of battling some injuries, and they have volleyball girls that are playing both. So that, if they have volleyball matches that night, they're not running, so that'll be interesting. And then I think for the Arweva kids, just getting out and getting a chance to run again and against some tough competition.
Gabby Hunling, one of 2 girls, finished in the top 30, I think, if I'm correct. And, the Hanson boy for Arweva, Jacob, finished, I think, in the lower half, but, only, I think, when as a freshman or sophomore, not quite sure where he's at. I think it's, So.
And that's a tough field up there at Gowrie, and it was really hot. I talked to Cindy Wilkie today from ESAC, and she talked about how absolutely hot it was. Muggy, hot, just not good conditions to run.
Yeah, let's talk a little volleyball. We got some teams off to really good starts, and you got an interesting matchup tonight, Casey, coming up with Kemper. Kemper.
Yeah, Kemper's off to a 7-0 start. I mean, beat a ranked South Hardin team. I think you said fifth
Yep.
coming into the year. Also beat South Central Calhoun, who was ranked 15th coming into the year. Kemper, I think 10th in 3A coming into last week. It'd be interesting to see. I don't know if
Van Meter last week as well, who was ranked.
I don't know if the rankings are out for this week yet, but.
Not yet.
It'll be interesting to see how they kind of fluctuate Kemper with 7-0. But, I mean, tonight should be interesting. You play an Ames team that we're going to have. I mean, they're going to have 4 matches tonight.
Yep.
Green County, Ames, Roland Story, and Ogden going to be there all tonight. And kind of the Ames, Roland Story are the ones that should really push Kemper. Ames, just a bigger school, 5A school. So it'd be interesting to see how, Kemper, who's in 3A for this year for volleyball, kind of plays up against him. But the Roland Story matchup should really learn.
Roland Story ranked and going to be pretty good. So that should be an interesting matchup. The freshmen playing really well. You're getting what you expect from Kaylee Simons and Brooke Roy in the back row. Brianna Whitrock is going to be Brianna Whitrock this year. We both think that she's poised to have a great season. But, getting some nice play from your setters and Elsa Tiefenthaler and Carson Overmore. But that's a good, strong team. Coon Rapids Baird also picked up a tournament victory and tournament championship at Colfax. They're 7-0 on the year. They're playing really well. Malia Clayberg's been outstanding to start the year. And
freshman setter Amelia Cook.
Is playing really, really well. I know the coaches are very high on her just with her knowledge of the game. She sees the floor well. She knows who to set and where to set it and those things. So look for big things from them. Carroll High going 5-1 down at the Harlan tournament.
Yeah, almost matching their win total from a season ago.
Yeah, 6 wins a year ago, 5 to open up the season. Just in the opening weekend, they get a chance to tie that win total with a home match tonight against Winterset. I'll have that broadcast for everybody as well. That'll be on Kick 106.7. So Coach Ludwig and that coaching staff doing an outstanding job. The girls really buying in and playing very well for them right now.
We're talking about individual performances. Addison Ealer off to a great start. Start to start the year.
Yeah, Addie Ealer up there at Esac County is averaging about 20 kills a set.
She's 70. She's got 70 kills through four games. So.
So just absolutely thundering it right now, and we anticipated a big year out of her, and she's having it. South Central had played really well, struggled a little bit.
Saw some really good teams in Humboldt,
though. Some ranked teams up there, and played them well, just couldn't quite come out with the victories, but they're going to bounce back. They've, JC Gravy and Nora Redazel and Brenda McAllister and Alexa Hollum, they're a strong ball club.
That's just always a strong conference, though.
Yes, Glen Ralston, kind of interesting for them. They played last Monday. They're off all of that last week. After Monday, they're off all of this week, so they don't play again until next Tuesday, a week from today.
How does that happen in a schedule?
I don't know. Even Coach Bunt's trying to figure that one out a little bit. She says the one positive thing about it is that they've decided that they're going to hold like their 4th, 5th, and 6th grade camps this week, so that way it breaks up the monotony of the practice, so the girls will be able to work with the young kids and work on some skills and stuff like that. But kind of interesting to play the first night of the regular season, and then you don't play for another 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, same with IK Manning. They're still waiting to get their season started. I think the 12th is when they open up play. So, and Arweva's only played a couple of times. I think they're pretty much off for a while too. So we're seeing that with a lot of our area schools, that some schools are scheduling heavy here at the beginning of the year, and some are kind of waiting and scheduling heavy towards the end of the year.
Speaking of Arweva, they were at the ESAC tournament this weekend. Almost got a win over Storm Lake St. Mary's, losing in 5. And kudos goes out to Peyton Jourdan. Picked up a win in their season opener, knocking off Storm Lake St. Mary's last week. They've got a chance going to Orient Maxburg tonight to start the season 2-0. So kudos to Michaela Spar.
For a team that didn't win a game last year, they're showing some signs here at the beginning of the year.
Did you guys hit Audubon? I don't know.
Not yet. They started 0-2, lost to Panorama and to Coon Rapids Baird last week down there. I think they're going to be fine. Harlow Miller had a really good night that night. They just got to find another hitter to kind of consistently go with her. Anna Larson seems like she's made that transition to setter and is doing a good job from playing back row. So I think they're going to be fine. Brandy Grun, I still want to call her Brandy Butel, but Brandy Grun does a terrific job with that program, and I think she'll get them going. But just some new girls in some new spots, and kind of having to feel themselves out a little bit here, figure out where everybody's comfortable early in the season.
They could be pretty salty come towards the end of the year.
Yep, absolutely.
So Kemper and Ames tonight, about 5:15 pregame, about 5:30 first serve.
Yep, over on 93.7 K Carroll. We're hoping. Depends on how long that first game goes.
Yeah.
But.
So you've got 5 teams there. So the first matches start at 4:30, and then Kemper Ames is scheduled for 5:30, but it's the second match of the thing. So the start time may waver just a little bit depending on how those first matches go.
And that's best out of 3?
Yep, best out of 3.
And you got Winterset at Carroll High.
I've got Winterset at Carroll High tonight. So, and Carroll High beat them last year. Got to be coming in with a lot of confidence. Caitlin Aiden played well, and stuff over the weekend, and they all did. So,
after a 5-1 start, you got to come in with a lot of confidence. Then Thursday night, you got Pokey at East Sac County in volleyball.
You bet. And looking forward to seeing East Sac County. I like that team, and with the way Addie's swinging right now, could be a match where she could have 20-some more kills, and stuff. So she's really good. Kendall Quirk gives them another really good hitter, and Jordan Carroll's made a nice transition into the setter role for them. So,
all right. And we'll give you the quick update on the schedule on Friday night. Gilbert is coming to town to take on the Carroll Tigers. That'll be with Tom Hawcap here on KCIM. Kemper on the road at Underwood. Another tough road trip for Kemper going down there to Underwood. At Nick Brinks will call that one on kick. And Jeff Blankman is going to be out with Glidden Ralston at Arweva coming up on Friday night. Again, all of the kickoff time, pregame times at 6:25, and kickoff times at 7 o'clock. That's on Friday. And that is KCIM Sports Rewind for this week.